here's the thing. The old school of cracking the whip, coming down on people doesn't work. It demotivates. You're the coach. You have to coach them into it. The most expensive thing in an agency is turnover. And then the retraining. So that would be the skill that I would get good at before constantly hiring and firing.
All right, I am here with the insurance dudes, right? That's what you guys call yourselves?
We are the dudes.
That's what they call us.
Well, hey, Jason and Craig, really glad to have you on. You guys are listening to the Insurance Agents Think Tank podcast. I'm your host, Todd McLean. You can find us at agentsthinktank.com to listen to all our podcasts. Again, Jason, Craig, thanks so much for coming on. Today's podcast is all about telemarketing. It's a hot topic, right? And over the years, we've slowly been getting hit with TCPA, with different kind of calling laws. It just feels like it's getting more and more difficult to telemarket. So I've been getting inundated with people asking, how are you doing it? What are you doing? And so I thought it would be really good to have a podcast on telemarketing. And you guys are experts, way more experience than I have in telemarketing. So I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is awesome.
Thank you, Todd.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves, Jason, and then Craig. What can you tell the audience who you are, what kind of agency you have, just a little bit of background?
Yeah, so my name's Jason Feltman. I live here in Huntington Beach, California. Started in the insurance industry about a little over 4 years ago. Bought a struggling book. Didn't know how to sell anything at first, and really tried to figure that out my first year. Towards the end of the first year, realized that we could actually maybe even bonus. So took some money out and invested into some live transfers. That was able to get us into bonus territory, which could make this thing actually give us enough capital to start rowing the boat here. So once we were able to do that, we realized real fast that live transfers were expensive. They were in short supply, that the super inconsistent. I would pull out my hair every time one didn't work out, or, one dropped and my, the agents didn't get it or something. And so it kind of freaked me out. So as I was talking to some of the lead companies, they were saying that they basically buy these leads, right? They buy internet leads from all these aggregators, and then they have a pool of them. They can't sell them all. There's more supply than demand, but they're also they're not only selling them to 7 other agencies, they're also calling on them, generating live transfers from the leads that they've already sold, and then transferring them to the agents for sometimes over $100 a transfer. So with that being said, he said that they'll never run out of supply of internet leads. And I said, it makes sense, right? Everybody's filling out stuff online, which has only come more to truth in the last year than ever before. So at that point, we started going deep into internet leads in the agency, but we would just have the agents call. Well, it was all great. We had some of the best systems to follow up with those leads. But we got some major burnout from our agents right around month 3. They were making about 400 dials a day, which is 2,000 a week and 8,000 a month. And then they thought that they were glorified telemarketers, even though that they were doing well with them. It just wasn't something that was sustainable. So that's when we started going deep with telemarketers, and then really putting together a funnel of having someone on the front end get these people on the phone, and then getting them over to the agents, so the agents could do a ton more quotes, a ton more sales, and we could, since then we've more than quadrupled the sales of our average agent from back then. So you get more from your agents. Your agents are happier. Our agents don't ever want to leave because they now have a virtual line out the door. So it really helps. So within that we started getting that going about year 2 in the agency, and then ever since then, that's all we've done, and we've our agency has been able to get best in company with the captive that we're with, and been able to always be at the top of the maximizing the bonuses and all the stuff they give you. So it's pretty cool. So that's my little story in a nutshell. Mr. Craig.
You took all my thunder.
I know, dude.
All of that.
I was thinking
just
that.
all of that stuff. So I've been an agent for about 12 years. And I came in from the financial services background. So I was at Merrill Lynch, and then came to a big captive carrier. And I was really good at selling and hustling, but not really good at managing people and the whole structure of running a business. And so it was a big shock coming in, and it was right after 2008. So you can imagine what happened at that point. So it really was a struggle trying to figure out what would be the best strategy to generate new business. And like many agents, kind of chased the next shiny object. Okay, let me try this. This doesn't work. Let me try this. This doesn't work. I dabbled in internet leads, but sort of like any other agent, where it was, I call them a couple times, don't have results. These leads suck, right? So I found myself I kept coming back to telemarketing in different forms. We had a center in the office at one point with, I think at one point there were 10 of them, but that was at night, and it was a real it was taxing on the family, because I was then at the office till late because they had to be babysit. You couldn't really trust anybody to do it. And the amount of interviewing and just shenanigans that would happen as a result of having 10 subhumans in the office at night, like, it was just crazy, because the kind of people that you can get to do this here in the States is much different than the kind of people that you can get when you outsource. And these people, it was like having criminals at the office. So after that didn't necessarily pan out, and it did get results, right? It did get results, but this was earlier, 2012 to 2014. So the time was different. TCPA wasn't a thing. You could just basically call, nobody cared. And now it's a lot tighter, obviously.
And crap would happen, right?
And this is a true story. The cleaning person said, "Hey, I don't want to clean your office anymore. There was poop on the floor in the bathroom." And I'm like, "What?" And it was the night after somebody pooped on the floor in the bathroom. I mean, how does that even happen? How does that?
Misfire.
Yeah, I guess. So anyway, I mean, that only happened one time, but stamps would go missing, just all kinds of crazy stuff. So fast forward, kept trying different things, and we always did decent, but never knocked it out of the park. And yeah, we got Inner Circle a couple times in there, but not consistent. So we never had these consistent or predictable results. And in about 2000, I guess it was 2017 or 18, Jason and I met, started talking on the phone, and we were having a lot of fun talking on the phone. And I started hearing about what he was doing. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I could, do that. But I was real slow to figure out, put the pieces together. And we were having fun on the phone, decided we'd start a podcast, because we're like, hey, this is decent. Maybe we could have some fun doing this. And in the back of our minds, and kind of the driving force, what it became was, hey, if we have a podcast, we could talk to all the top agents, learn their secrets, share their secrets to help other agents. But at the same time, we'll learn and solidify how we could really market it and crush it. And so what we found with a lot of these agents was it was very, very similar across the board. And Jason got a head start on it because he'd been talking to a few of them anyway. But it was the same thing. They would have a tele team. So they had a tele team, low cost, doing the repetitive activity that didn't require a lot of skill to it, right? It's just activity. But to Jason's point, where you have turnover across the board in agencies, there's tons of turnover, and I think it's because we push them out there and say, look, you have to cut your teeth, go make the dials. Well, nobody wants to make dials, right? It's the worst. And on top of that, 85% of the time, with good leads, right? With a good contact percentage of 15%, 85% of the time you're just dialing. So you're not even talking to anybody. And so all that time is being spent and the agents are being burned out. And so we're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And this is what all the top agents were doing. You know, they're buying leads because you can insert money, you get the thing from it. It's not guesswork like mailers or whatever where it's harder to quantify. And so what they'd done, we saw it over and over and over again. There was a certain cadence, there was a certain way they did it, and they just bought them, they dumped them into this funnel and rifled through them, had a whole system. And so as agent or Jason started this agency, a scratch agency in October 2019. And I said, I'm going to do one in November 2019 with our carrier. And we did it. Like we put that system into place. He had a head start because he'd been doing it about a year. I had a meltdown about 45 days in because it wasn't quite working and there was a lot more going out than coming in. But it tipped in January of 2020, and now we've just been off to the races. So I didn't get best in company, but I was number 45 out in my carrier out of 10,000. So we pulled it off and did pretty well. And we're consistently, both of us were like fighting to beat each other at around 250,000 of premium a month. So we know it works, and we know by what we put in, what we're going to get out. It's consistent.
Craig, me and you have the exact same background. I started my agency in 2009. I was a financial advisor before.
Wow.
And I instantly jumped into telemarketing with an in-house team. So it's kind of funny that timing and background is unique.
Any poop?
No, but I had extortion and drug dealing.
There you go.
So
I think there was probably some of that too.
Yeah. I got some screenshots of her trying to extort me on Facebook, laughing about it. And I was like, hey, do you know blackmail is illegal?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I have screenshots of some crazy texts from old employees in telemarketing.
Yeah. So when people say telemarketing's tough, they ain't kidding. Like we get it, right?
Yeah.
We understand. And when people say people burn out, yeah, we get it. But there's a lot of truth to building the funnel of, and cutting out, unfortunately, I don't want to blow up my partnerships that I have out there with Agency MVP, but the live transfer calls are exactly what you said they were. They're basically buying a ton of online aggregated leads at wholesale cost. They're the ones calling them, and they're just transferring the call to you. So you're taking a $3 lead they're probably buying at wholesale, and they're flipping it for $100 just because they got someone on the phone.
And then selling that lead to 7 other agents too.
Yeah, exactly.
The funny thing is those other 7 agents have a better situation because they actually have the data. The live transfer, you don't even have the data.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
So you lose your equity, right? I mean, if you miss the call or, whatever happens, or the producer doesn't put it in to their system, you don't have the data.
So if this show's all about educating people on telemarketing and, if they wanted to go off and do it on their own, hopefully we can give them some insights on how to do it. What would you say, would you say that data is the first thing that you want to look at? What kind of, who you're going to market, who you're going to call? Can you guys give some insights on the source of data that you guys recommend?
Well, I think you can get data. That's not the hard part. The hard part is building the team. And so you need to make sure you have people, right? So you need to make sure you have a dialer that's legal, right? A compliant dialer that has a human intervention in between each one. So you got to make sure that's happening. And you need to run interviews every single week. So week in, week out, you need to sit and either you do it or you hire a telemarketing manager. So there's a lot of cost that goes into it. And Todd, you having one, this, right? It was 2 weeks. Somebody lasts for 2 weeks and then they're gone. They don't call in. They just don't show up. Exactly. So you don't even know. It's like one night you had 10, the next night you have 3, and you're like, this is awesome. So it's very inconsistent.
Right.
Anything, Jason, that you think along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing with data is that we found that you could really figure out. The one thing is the contact rate. So we've really like in both Craig and my agency, we really look at that heavily.
Sure.
We don't really care about, I mean, I guess I hope it's accurate information, but I don't really care about any of that stuff because, to Greg's point, that we spend so much time training, we've pretty much have it down to where as long as somebody's on the phone, we can probably talk them into a quote. So the contact rate is huge. So most of our, like with the teledudes, most of our callers get 500 to 700 calls a day. So if you look at contact rate is huge, because if you get, let's say you have a decent data source and you're getting 10 to 15% on day one, which is really good.
Right.
That from our experience, 10 to 15%. Well, we generally see a 10% of contacts that we can get transferred over to the team and quoted.
Nice.
So yeah, so with that data, I mean, you can figure out, like, people come to us sometimes and they really want Sales Genie or Colex dates or these leads that aren't, first off, they don't have, talk about TCPA, they're not digital certificates. So you literally, I mean, you're very lucky if you don't get snabbed at some point with those. But they're not opted in leads. So you're constantly scrubbing them and hoping that they're, that the scrubber's working and everything.
Yeah.
But let's say like Colex dates or Sales Genie, you might get like a 2% contact rate. Well, on 500 calls, that's only 10 contacts, which means you might get one transfer. So even though those leads were free, the amount of fixed costs that you have either with your telemarketers or, even worse, your agents, the amount of fixed costs, it just doesn't make any sense. Where in turn, if you have a 10%, let's up that to 10%. Now you're talking about 5 quoted transfers a day from those people. If you're getting a 10% contact rate, so then your costs go way down. So It seems like, even though that you're paying more for the leads, that it seems like, it would be more advantageous to pay less for the leads, but the contact rate's the key, and those fixed costs aren't going away. So buying a better data set based on contacts will definitely lower your cost per sale.
Well, and the other dimension to that too, that people don't think about, is time. So if you have a 2% contact rate, there's actually two parts to it, right? There's the time, and then there's the funnel itself, right? So if you have a 2%, and really on Colex dates or whatever, it's going to be closer to a 1% contact rate. So you're really, really crippling yourself to save, whatever you save. I mean, it's just, you're paying for garbage. So who cares? But so if it's a one, let's say it's a 1%, let's be nice, say it's 2% contact rate. So, and then let's be mean to the internet leads and say it's a 10% contact. It's going to take 5 times as long to get the same result, but you're not going to get the same result because there's no intent. And the other issue is, since you have to put in 5 times the amount of data, you clog the machine up. So really, at the end of the day, you don't have capacity to sift through all that data. So you need maybe 5 times as many telemarketers just to crank through and do the dials, because the top of the funnel is dials.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have enough dials, you don't get to contacts. Well, to get the amount of contacts you need out of that data, you have to do 5 times as much activity. So you may save on the front end on the data, but you don't, because you lose time and it requires more people, and it falls apart. Anybody that comes to us and they're like, hey, I got Sales Genie, I'm going to upload lists. We're like, all right, well, you shouldn't do that because it's not going to work. No. I'm like, look, we've made 19 million dials. We have it, no pun intended, we have it pretty dialed in from an analytics standpoint. And so the best thing you can do is spend up front. And we actually calculated, we broke out the numbers on it, and the cost per sale off of $4, real-time leads is about half as much as the cost per sale using Colex dates, where it's almost free for the data.
If I could nail home like a takeaway here, and I've been drilling it, because ever since I started doing telemarketing, I always had a 110-1 rule. For every 100 dials, we have to have 10 people answering, and we have to sell one of those quotes. We have to quote one, my bad. So yeah, I've always had the 10% rule ingrained into my brain since 2010. And you're on the money about, call X dates or sales genie versus intent leads. Even if they're old, old internet leads at a big discount, at least there was some intent there in the past that was somewhat decent. And you have certificates on, hopefully you have certificates to be careful about what you're buying, what kind of data you're buying, right? But agents are always so cautious about what they're spending on marketing. It's like stepping over a dollar to pick up a dime. You know what I mean? Like, you think you're saving some money and you got this great deal on data, but you did not realize the can of worms that you just opened in your contact rate and what you're going to get out of that list, and how much effort and energy and money it's going to take to actually generate something out of that list.
And I think agents are very shiny object syndrome. So, and I've been there, and I still catch myself doing it. But you're, I'm going to try this, and you do it a week or 2 weeks, and you're like, this doesn't work, and then you go to the next thing, and you're never going to get results if you're not consistent. It's like anything else. If you want to go meet all the lenders in town, it's going to take you 3 months to a year before they're really sending you stuff and you have a steady stream. Even with this, you're not going to get immediate results. We're good at it now, and our teams close on first call closes about 16% of everything we write. So if we write 500 items, 16% of it came from first call closes. The rest of it went all the way out to 100 dials. Yep. And 16%, if it's a bell curve, 16% of it's between 60 and the 90th dial. Nobody's doing that. And I love when somebody will say, well, but how's your retention? You can't have good retention. It's like, dude, we call somebody 90 times, they're staying with us because nobody else is calling them 90 times.
That's exactly right.
It's so my retention is no different now than it was before we did it.
Yeah.
In fact, it's trending up. So.
Yeah, 60% of our revenue comes after the 12th call attempt.
Yep.
So we have
100%.
Yeah, and so we have
60%.
You're constantly driving these hard to achieve leads, hard to close leads, right? And then you're just going to give up on them. What the hell? You have to have a sales process in place to continue to market to those people after the first transfer or quote, right? So
yeah.
What would you say scripting wise? Let's give some juice to people. What would you say? You're telemarketing. You found somebody who's doesn't poop on floors, doesn't do drugs, maybe, and they're gonna call from, let's say, 4 to 7:30, and they're dialing a list that has high intent, or not high intent, somewhat intent. Like, they asked for a quote in the last 90 days, maybe, and you bought old internet leads to feed into the machine. Any advice you can give on what the best opening, because we know that you have 5 or 10 seconds to grab somebody's attention or you're screwed, right? What would you say that 10 seconds needs to be?
Anything but insurance.
Yes. And I would say, wherever you are, wherever you're from, how would you call your buddy? Like, so if it's, hey man, what's up? How you been? Something like that. Or however you talk to your friend, I would say that almost anybody that jumps on a phone in a professional setting sounds horrible. They sound like a robot. I don't know. Like, we're normal people. Then we get in these business positions, and then we sound like a telemarketer. We sound like a robot, like an insurance dude, right? Hey sir, how you doing? Like, that's immediate rejection, because we are trained to reject sales. Even if you want, I always tell the story, like, if I went to Living Spaces to buy a couch, first thing that happens, I walk in, somebody comes up to me, they go, can I help you with something, sir? No. Even though I wanted to buy the couch, I just don't want to deal with that, right? Because we all know what comes with that. It's like that immediate, it's like, if somebody's running after you with the baseball bat, you're going to just run. Like, it's that kind of reaction. So you want to catch them off guard. You want to like, oh, is this a friend? You want to get them thinking something other than this is a sale. So the first thing that I always tell agents to do is, how do you call your buddy? Like, who's your friend? Okay, And what do you say to him when you call? Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Hey, what's up, man? Start with something like that would be the first thing I'd say. The second thing I would say is, no matter what in the conversation, go to the next thing. So I don't have enough time is a big one, right? Oh, I don't have time. I don't have like all those initial rejections. I would say steamroll it. Okay, yeah, I don't have that much time anyways. It's only going to take, but it's great because it's only going to take 2 seconds. And then just keep going with it. That's the other thing, is that it's not like talking to your mom or your grandma or something, or your friend. So it's a business position. So who cares if what they say? The whole goal of you to be on that phone is to get the transfer over, or to get the quote. This goes the same with insurance agents as well. So just keep doing it. Keep talking. And if the other person wants to hang up, let them hang up. Who cares? But just keep talking. Keep the momentum going on the phone, no matter what they say. And we've realized that with that method in the agency, whether it's the telemarketing portion or the agent side, that one out of two people that say no will do the quote, because people are easily led. People are natural followers. We see it every day. So that skill to be able to get over the uncomfortable feeling of like you're talking to your mom or something. I don't know. They said that they're busy, or they said they don't have any money, or it's like, it's all BS answers. So if once they understand that and they just keep asking the questions, they skyrocket in their position, whether it be a telemarketer skyrockets in their position or your agent. So those would be the two things I would say.
Absolutely. So would you say that, I've never actually tried to use the, hey, how are you doing? Or like, I've always thought that getting straight into the meat and potatoes of it, we just lowered rates in your area. Would love to give you a competitive quote. So you guys don't use any kind of pitch like that. How do you open up that you want to give them a quote? Is there a specific line you train your people to use?
Well, you got to drag it out a little bit at the beginning. So it's that whole,
Okay.
hey, Tom, how's it going? And just wait, like make the awkward pause, and then, oh yeah, we had your information. We quoted you in the past, and then, then into it. But do you still live at this? But you never, if anybody can take one thing away from this, don't ever ask them if they want to get a quote. And
Sure.
You hear that all the time. Like we hear calls, especially new people. It's because they're uncomfortable and they want to ask for permission. You cannot, because just think to yourself, if somebody called you and asked you if you wanted to do something, or some person you don't know, what's your answer? Anything, right? It's no.
I'm watching TV. Leave me alone.
That would be like the dentist saying, "Do you want a root canal?"
Right. It's
no.
the same thing.
Yeah.
No, but you need it. I don't care. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
So what about consistency with your team? Like, how do you motivate? Because we know it's a burnout position. How do you find the best ways to motivate your team in telemarketing?
I would say across the board, it's how every position in the agency, you've got to have daily meetings. You got to get out of the monotony of an agency. I came from the restaurant industry that I worked in for 10 years prior to jumping in a desk job. I don't like a desk job per se, because it's so mundane. You're doing the same stuff over and over again. But the cool part is during meetings, you can talk about stuff. You can run fun. We used to, when we used to do meetings here, every once in a while, everybody would be tired and something. So I'd make everybody do, I'm a little teapot. So you'd have to stand up and do the whole thing. I'm a little teapot, and it wakes you up. It gets you going. But meetings are fun. You can make them fun, and it gets everybody on the same page, gets you talking, gets you, you can kind of vent a little bit, and it kind of pulls you out of that day, and it really solidifies your team. And a team, people work hard when they know that they're going to let other people down. So if you can really create that team environment where they don't want to let each other down, because we're all on the same train, we're all in the same boat rowing to the same goal, and they know that if you're not rowing, that you're going to be the weak person and you don't want to let everybody in your boat down. So I think meetings are key.
I like that.
Yeah. In our Facebook group, our Elite Dudes group, we talk about it all the time. And most people that end up, working with us or whatever, will not be doing meetings. And it's over and over and over, that you see the same things as you talk to agents, like nobody does meetings or they do it once a month. And I can tell you in my agency, one of the biggest game changers for my team and results was doing a daily meeting. And it's not some BS where you sit there, because we've all had that job where it's like, the meeting, like they, to Jason's point, they have fun. Like it's fun and they get something out of it and it gets them ready it's their cup of coffee for their sales job.
I like
come together, work on something. I mean, we got the wheel that they could spin. Sometimes we load it up with lotto cards or whatever. And then sometimes we have objections on it. So they spin it. They have to overcome the objection. And a lot of this stuff is just muscle memory, right? They're afraid of this world, especially our producers, for whatever reason, they're very inconsistent with how they do their sales process. And that's why we use a script in the agency, is because you have to have something that you can get consistent with and then just be ready, right? I don't know why, because you could go to any agency almost and talk to one of the producers and say, hey, what do you say when somebody says I need to talk to my spouse? And they won't have an answer. And you're like, I mean, you hear that 10 times a day. That's the ultimate, get out of this conversation over, objection. That isn't true. Because who actually has to go ask their wife if they can change insurance? Is that a thing? If I asked my wife, she'd be like, what? Like, you can't do that yourself?
Can I buy a Chanel bag? What? Okay.
Right. Exactly. So
I get it. Well, I struggle. I'm one of the dummies. I struggle just because I have multiple offices, and I think you guys do too, right? Do you guys have multiple offices?
Yeah.
How the hell do you have a meeting for one office? Do you Zoom everyone in? How do you handle multiple offices?
Zoom everyone in. And half of my team is remote, so they get to work from home. If they're trending over a certain amount, then they get to work from home.
Nice.
So, yeah. So, I mean, this whole year really taught us how to do that well. But it's those consistent meetings. We were doing them twice a day, which really helps. If the more segregated people are and the newer the team is, the more a frequent meeting helps. But we're on a one a day, 9 a.m. in the morning every morning. And it really helps.
Those meetings should feel like reset buttons, I guess, then, right? Wake everybody up, reset. Yeah. Not a bitch fest where you're saying, cracking a whip. It's meant to like motivate and promote.
That's it. Here's the thing. Nowadays, the old school of cracking the whip, like coming down on people, doesn't work. It demotivates. Yeah, and then they just don't work as hard. I mean, Craig and I always tell people, you're the coach. You have to coach them into it. And here's the thing. The most expensive thing in an agency is turnover. And then the retraining in the new position. I hate doing that. It's much easier to take somebody that might not be performing well or something and motivate them into that position. So that would be the skill that I would get good at before you're constantly hiring and firing. And if you say that, there's all employees suck, like all my employees suck, you're not a good leader. Like, just at that point, if that's how you feel, then you got to really have the introspective look of, how do I get better? How can people want to work for me? We're all in sales, right? So the agency owner is selling himself. He's selling his dream. He's selling the vision of where you're going, the overall outlook on the agency. So you're selling that to your staff all the time. And if people are constantly leaving you, you need to redefine that vision and stuff, because it's obviously not that great of a vision if nobody wants to get behind it, or you're not conveying it. Maybe you're not having meetings, or maybe you're not being vulnerable and explaining those things that are important to you that we, everybody can get behind.
Well, let's get some more content around. I want to know mistakes you've made, because I've had a lot of mistakes telemarketing. I mean, I even had one where I didn't know spam numbers, like your phone number could get marked as spam, and my contact rate went from like 10 to 12% to 0. And for a week, I thought everybody sucked. And then I found out, oh crap, you have to actually know if your phone number gets marked as spam or not.
Sure.
So yeah, go into what's some mistakes that you went along the way to some of our listeners don't make the same mistakes twice.
Well, just not following the clues that are inherent in the process. So to your point, if your contact rate is 12% consistently, and the next day it's 0, it's that's something. Or you look at the outcome. Oh, they didn't get any transfers. What's going on, right? The first thing that we as humans want to do is, oh, they suck. But it's like, okay, let me look at all the pieces, because there's 5 different spots along the funnel. Where did it break down? And if you can see, it was contacts. And usually, if down at the end of the river here, it's not producing results, something happened upstream. And it happens all the time, especially with new folks that we're working with. We'll say, oh, I'm not getting any transfers. I go, what is your contact percentage? That's the first thing that we looked at, because somebody doesn't come to the mechanic with the thing and say, hey, my it's not running well. Oh, well, let's replace the engine. They diagnose the least expensive and most obvious thing first, then go to the extremes. So usually if transfers aren't happening, something happened up here, and you could troubleshoot. And that's why for me, this has been the best thing that you can do to create predictability in the agency. Is it just is, hey, there's something wrong. So to your question, it's not looking at the numbers would be the biggest mistake. I don't know. Was it a few months ago, Jason? I said, I was complaining about my team. They're not closing anything. And he said, well, how many leads are you getting? And I go, dude, I'm the same as I always am. And Craig hadn't been looking at what one of the lead companies did, which was they throttled back my delivery. And, I had about half as many leads coming in. It takes 2 weeks before you really notice, if you drop your leads, and then that affects you for the next 60 days after the 2 weeks. So, so then I just overshot it. So I just pumped in a ton of leads, and then it kind of fixed itself. But that you got to watch it. You don't have to be there every day. I mean, we had our best month. I was in Cabo all December, but I was watching. I logged in. Okay, what leads? Okay, the leads are working. Contacts are there. Everybody's at work. That's it. You just have to make sure that you're watching what's going on. You don't have to do everything.
100%. Jason, is there anything mistakes you made along the way that?
Yeah, I would say that one of my biggest mistakes is inconsistency. Anytime there's inconsistency, whether it is with the meetings or checking in the leads or meeting with the individual agents or anything that there's inconsistency falls apart. And anytime, I would say every problem in an agency is because we're only as good as our systems. So whatever system it may be, whether it's, the follow-up process, it can be sales, service, or whatever. If there's a system in place, then you can have success doing it. With that being said, if that system's not constantly being looked at, that's when it falls apart. So everything that I've had, there's a million things that I've screwed up on. Putting all this together to what we have now, there was probably 10 to 20 failures per thing that eventually came together that we stuck with. So I'd say consistency. And then when I first started, it was not failing fast enough. And I always tell my daughter and stuff now, because she's kind of a perfectionist, and I used to be kind of a perfectionist, is, you can let that stunt your growth. the best way to learn is to learn fast and to just screw up. Get good at failing, because it's the ultimate gasoline to get to your destination. You can always, if you're actually doing something, screwing up at it, it's the biggest motivator to fixing it. You know what I mean? Or you can just keep putting it on the back burner. Oh, it's not perfect yet. It's not perfect yet. Like script development or something. I tell everybody, just anything's good. Like anything you write down will be better than whatever's being done without there being anything written down.
Absolutely.
So just write anything, write a script, and then there you go. And then as soon as you write that, us as humans are like, this could be better here. This could be better here. And then you keep making it better. I mean, it's so easy, but our brains stop us from any kind of real growth. So I like the second thing is just fail fast.
And don't predict what's going to happen. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. Oftentimes the thing that works is the thing you didn't think was going to work. So just do, you know, you like Nike nailed it. You just have to do it. And then you can adjust. Nobody's dying. We're not flying a plane. We're not doing brain surgery here. Right. It's like, just try it, stick with it, and then assess and readjust.
Yeah, that's been my pet peeve ever since I started, of writing down goals, expectations, monitoring those goals, expectations, rinse, repeat. But I hate it. Like I don't know why I hate it so much. I think it's because you have to look at your own faults when you're doing it. Like you thought you were going to hit this point, you didn't hit it. Now you got to suck it up and figure out where you screwed up and fix it, right? So
Yeah.
You definitely have to fail fast, and realize your mistakes as you go along. For telemarketing, for generating leads through telemarketing, what would you say a good cost per lead is, like a range of, should be at?
I mean, I'd pay $100 if I closed every single one of the leads. So I always look at the cost per sale. I like to keep the cost per sale under 200. If you can get it under 200, then you can probably get it close to 100. So that's good. Yeah. And then I would say the sales cycle too. Don't expect that on month one, you know, or yes, we do get it under that at month one, but don't expect to get that at under month one at first. And a real sales cycle on internet leads is at least 3 months before you have the real data of what those leads can do. Takes a while to get to those 90th dials.
Yeah, don't switch after a week because you have garbage. You know, like your cost per sale in the first week is going to be $700. It's just the way it works. You know, and that don't have a panic attack. You know, in 2 weeks it's going to be at 400. In 3 weeks it's going to be at 250, and then all of a sudden you're going to be down. Like we get them down close to 100 just by the number of dials we make on them. They convert, and so you know, I guess the other thing. People will look I'm going to buy the good leads, right? I'm going to buy them really filtered and all this stuff, and they're paying $15 for it. Well, dude, the contact rate is still the same on those leads. So all you're doing is making you're increasing your cost per sale on the back end by paying something that you don't need to. I'd rather have some garbage in there, but be able to just rifle through all that data at a better, more affordable rate. You know, $4 or $4.50, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it does matter somewhat for your carrier and your appetite, right? So like if I used to filter, because our carrier and every carrier wants the preferred type of customer, right? But I learned quickly it's relative to what rates are in my market. Like it's cyclical. So I just want a homeowner because I know they might have cars. And so like my filters have gone from $500,000 house built in 2014 up and blah, 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 to, do you own a home? Like, do you own a home? Because if you own a home, I'm going to go after you. And then if I can't write you today, you go in my smart system and I'll follow up when I'm supposed to in the future. Right. So now I'm just creating a data set. So absolutely, like you can filter way too much and still have the same contact rate and results.
Yeah, the only filter I have on mine is prior. That's because that's no. It's a no if they don't have prior, but otherwise it's pretty wide open.
Well, you guys have built teledudes, so kind of so for our people who don't want to go through the interview process, the poop on the floor, Tell us about kind of what you do and the service you offer agents.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So a lot of what we've said and what we built in our agencies is what we did. Typically, and I know that you're crushing it with your carrier. As soon as you're doing well, everybody starts to hit you up. And we realized, okay, well, yeah, we started helping people create the same type of thing in their own agencies. And this was right when COVID happened. So something interesting happened. We were worried because we launched, and I'll get into exactly what we do, but we launched it and we thought, oh no, what's happened? What's going to happen? And we actually ended up taking off and doing very, very well during COVID because contact rates went up. Back to the whole contact rate. So we learned also because we wanted to make it where it works. People will come to us and think, oh, is this a live transfer company? No, it's not a live transfer because you own the data. So with our teledudettes, you get the teledudette. They will be either on your phone system, preferably if it depends on what phone system it is, or we can put them in a dialer. We have a couple partnerships or not partnerships. We have recommended dialers that they use, and they're going to make the dials. You along with that get the other important piece, which we learned from having telemarketers in our agencies, is a telemarketing manager. So there's a manager that's gonna monitor, hold them accountable, train them, make sure that they're producing the results and doing the things they need to do to get the quoted transfers. That's the other metric. We don't hold them accountable to transfers. We hold them accountable to quoted transfers. So there's a little bit of accountability from the telemarketer to your producers too. And then we also want to ensure that everybody is super successful. So we created a training around it. And it's not fluff. It's exactly what needs to be done in order to be successful with it. Anybody that hasn't got results, the first thing that we say is, did you do the peak performance challenge? No. Anybody that hasn't got results has not done the peak performance challenge. And it's as simple as that because it's there. It gives every little piece. We have like today, it's going to be in 6 minutes. Actually, we have our weekly coaching call with agents. So they jump on, they ask a million questions. We get through. We talk about wins. We talk about challenges, and so really, it's an entire community around the notion of the teledudes. So you can have telemarketer or you can have teledudes, and teledudes takes it to the next level because we're agents. We know what it takes, and we know what you have to go through to do it yourself. And we want people to be successful because we're in a fight, right? We're in a fight against the carriers and the geckos and the flows. And we need to make sure that we come out on top, right? I think that you could say we're in a fight for our lives here, and we want to help agents win.
How can they find out about you? What's your website and things like your costs and stuff like that?
You can go to just teledudes.com. That's teledudes.com. Yeah, and sign up for more information. We do webinars. We'll probably have a reoccurring one by the time you guys hear this. So yeah, it's more of like a web class. So you will get a bunch out of it if you just watch it. So even if you don't use our service, just check it out. And yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, guys. Jason, Craig, it's been a pleasure. And I'm sure we'll hear more from you soon.
For sure. We got to get you on the insurance dudes.
Todd, thank you so much. This was awesome.